Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for October 17th. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. We have an absolute phenomenal show lined up for you today. My boy Bryce from the I Need It Sports Pod is this week's special guest. Bryce and I are going to look back at week 6, share what bets we are making for week 7, and Gino will have his horse racing bet of the day. But before I get into all that, I want to say thank you to the sponsor of the show, Thrive. If you're not using Thrive, you are missing out. Phenomenal. I like it better than Prize Picks, Parlay Play. You get 3x return any day there's an NFL game. I am making Thrive fantasy videos on my YouTube channel. Download the Thrive app. Use promo code ETOFT21 for 100% deposit match. Make sure to check that out if you're watching on YouTube. Link to that is in the description. Now, let's see what our boy Gino has a cooking over at Keeland.
We're going to look at race number 5, and we're looking at the daily racing form past performances. This horse hasn't shown a whole ton of finish on the track, but I think both of his races are a little better than they may look if you're just seeing that he finished 9th and then finished 6th in those 2 races. And in particular, you want to look at the races he comes out of. So what's nice about these daily racing form past performances, you can click on the chart and then you can see all of the horses that beat him in his race. So he lost to Valentine Candy. Valentine Candy then went on and raced in the Grade 1 Hopeful. And then after that was second and earned an 84 Beyer speed figure. The second and third place finishers from that race have not come back to run yet, so we haven't seen them back. The 4th place finisher, General Partner, he came back to win his next start. Following that, he was second in the Grade 1 Champagne. Dancing Groom came back to win his next start. He was 3rd in the Grade 1 Champagne. Dive Bomber came back to run second in his next start, and he was second behind General Partner. See how strong this race was? So I don't really hold it against the horse that he was in a race against this tough of company. And in his following start on August the 19th at Saratoga, he was behind a horse named Risk It. That horse went on and faced Stakes Company in his next race and was second. And Hunt Ball, who was second, came back to run second again in his next start. I just think he exits a couple really strong races. He's got a little bit of tactical speed, a little more than it may look like when you just first glance at him. I think World Fair, the number 8, is going to run very well on Wednesday at Keeneland in race number 5. Best of luck. Make sure to tune in here.
Make sure to give my boy Gino a follow at It's Me Gino B. Now, without further ado, let's welcome a first timer. I love it. Anytime there are first timers coming on the show, just worked with the guy right after the Damian Lillard trade. Hit it off really good. So I invited him on the show. Glad our schedules were able to work out. Let's welcome Bryce from the I Need It Sports Pod to the show. Bryce, how you doing today, my man?
Doing pretty good. I appreciate you extending the opportunity to come back on the podcast. Enjoyed my time. The first episode, like you said, talking about that huge blockbuster trade with Damian Lillard. Here to chop it up about week 6 NFL.
Week 6 it was interesting. It was an interesting week. I hate the Lakers, 99, right off the bat. I need some NBA futures. Now, this is the joy of the live show. We get questions we're not prepared for. I have a couple futures I've locked in. Have you locked in any NBA futures?
I haven't. I've been talking with some of my podcast members because I didn't even realize that the NBA is actually like 1 week away.
Yeah,
so we've been talking about it in our group chat all day. Still gonna go sprinkle a little bit on Milwaukee Bucks NBA championship odds, like I said on the last episode. I still don't necessarily believe it in my heart that the Suns will make it, but I've been watching a few of their preseason games. They look pretty good. So if you want that 2021 rematch between the Bucks and the Suns, if you can pair up that matchup for some odds, I'm sure that's pretty good. And then I was actually thinking today, I kind of got a dark horse MVP candidate. I don't know what the odds are, but I know they'd be pretty good. I have my eye on De'Aaron Fox. I think if Sacramento is able to replicate what they did last year, and he was one of the best fourth quarter scorers, he's able to repeat that, show that he is a staple as a point guard in this league. I wouldn't be surprised if he could potentially make a run because I feel like we're at the point now. We've seen Jokic, we've seen Embiid year after year. There's going to be the Luka hype, of course. Jason Tatum. But none of those guys have actually went out and did it. And speaking on Tatum and Luka, I think De'Aaron Fox, like I said, just a nice little dark horse, light the beam. They had that magic going last year. I think they'll be able to repeat it this year because they were young, got all that experience.
These are the ones I've locked in. I locked in Scoot. I think I got him at 3 or 350 plus 300 plus 350. No, sorry. I got Chet at 3 or 4 to 1 to win Rookie of the Year. Scoot at 6 to 1 to win Rookie of the Year. I took Shade Gilgeous-Alexander to win MVP at 25 to 1.
I like that one.
I threw a little bit, just a sprinkle on the Thunder at 100 to 1 to win it all. Just a little sprinkle, just a little sprinkle on the Thunder, because my thought process is we've kind of seen this play out before. We saw it play out with the Grizz, where they made it to the play-in tournament, they got some experience, and then that next year they were the number 1 seed. If we get the Grizzlies to be the 1 or 2 seed, because teams like Phoenix, teams like the Warriors, I'm spacing on Nuggets, whoever, load management, Thunder really go after it. We got the 1 seed, we get 100 to 1. That's easy hedging out. I'm going to be able to make money any single way. I haven't bet it, but I'm going to bet the Pistons to make the play-in tournament. Maybe that's a homer pick for me because I'm from Michigan.
Hey,
And
if Cade can stay healthy, I like that pick. I was big on y'all last year being a play-in team or a sneak-in playoff team, and of course Cade got injured out for the year, and then the season kind of derailed from there. But him, the Thompson twin, Bagley, Durant, like I think y'all could be a really good team because the East is very top heavy as we've discussed before. So I actually like that one. I think that can happen for sure.
And then I like the Magic too. I think the Magic are going to make. I think the Magic are going to finish 6. Bobby chimes in. When do we talk about hedging our Phillies future? Not for a while, Bobby. Not for a while. We got a long way to go. I know we're excited, but that 25 to 1. How did the Chargers lose? Well,
they chargered it up.
They are the Chargers, as Bobby says, because they suck. No. This is what was told to me. Staley's defense is too complicated. And the reason why it's success with the Rams is he had a lot of veteran guys, 28, 27 and older. Chargers defense is a little younger, and these guys are just not comprehending what he says and why they're out of position a lot. And also the guy makes some bad decisions. It's like every single one of the decisions he makes is just the wrong decision. The going for it, you got to read the room. Like, I understand analytics and everything, but sometimes you got to read the room. Your defense is playing good. Why not just kick the field goal there and make it 10-10? Turns out to be a 3-point game they lose by. So, unfortunately I was on the wrong end of that. So we're going to talk our takeaways from week 6, basically how it goes. Those watching for the first time, Bryce is the guest. Bryce will say his first takeaway. We'll talk about it. I'll say my next takeaway. We're each going to have 2. Bryce, you're the guest. Let's hear it, my man.
Oh, well, it kind of segues perfectly with what we were just talking about. My first takeaway is there's 2 coaches that came into the season who, me personally, I was saying they've been on the hot seat. And after week 6, I would say the seat is scorching on fire right now. One of those being Brandon Staley and the other being Bill Belichick. Now, I know Bill Belichick is obviously probably the greatest coach ever, depending on who you ask. Really the greatest defensive mind ever, no doubt. But he's had his struggles without Tom Brady. I don't think Robert Kraft would necessarily fire him in the middle of the season. I think just because of his track record, his resume, he would let him walk off with dignity, or, they would agree to part ways, not necessarily fire him. But after losing to the Raiders for a second year in a row, McDaniel's his old coordinator, and it just seems like that team is lost. They don't have any faith in Mac Jones. They didn't surround him with any talent. They're 1-5, and their schedule's not about to get any easier this week. They got the Bills. Week after that, they got the Dolphins. They're looking at a 1-7 start. I don't know off the top of my head for a fact, but I'm pretty sure Bill Belichick hasn't started a season 1-7. And I'm sure they get blown out one of those two games. You'll probably see Mac Jones get benched again. And if he gets benched the third time, I don't think you can bring him back off the bench. I know they signed Will Grier, so there's been talks of possibly him taking over. But if that happens, Mac Jones' time in New England is probably gone, which isn't necessarily his fault. He hasn't been good by any stretch of the imagination, but he's coming in behind Tom Brady, so the stakes were already pretty high. And then, like I said, you don't give him any wide receiver talent. He can't throw the ball that great as is. So I think Bill Belichick, it's possible after that Dolphins game, there might be real discussions on getting fired midseason. And then on the flip side, like I said, Brandon Staley. As a Chiefs fan, I've watched the Chargers my whole life. I just said it, they charger it up. And with Brandon Staley, his whole analytics thing, like you said, sometimes you just got to take the points. He's gotten lucky because 2 of the times he's gone for it in his own territory, fourth quarter with under a minute, his defense has saved him. Yesterday, it came back to bite him. He didn't kick that field goal. They lose by 3. You're now staring at a 2-3 record. My Chiefs are 5-1. We play them this week at home. I know it's going to be a tough game because it always is between us two. But if we lose that, they're 2-4 and now 4.5 games back in the division. And the Raiders, who God knows how, are 3-3, even though it's been some of the ugliest wins you can see. They're going to be ahead of them as well. And you just paid Herbert all that money. So Staley's going to have to go because you couple all this with the, historic playoff choke last year versus Jacksonville. He's probably gone middle of the season if this doesn't get turned around because you got Justin Herbert, who is an elite talent. You got to start winning games. It's got to translate at some point. And during his whole tenure, it just hasn't translated. So I really think we might see Bill Belichick and Brandon Staley fired before the end of the season. And that was my first takeaway from watching week 6 of the NFL.
Mac Jones, LOL. Have to feel for that guy. So let's rewind. Let's start with Mac Jones. We need to remember there was a time when he was talked about as the reason the 49ers traded up to 3 to draft him, to draft him. He was supposed to be the next Tom Brady. They obviously went with Trey Lance, who ended up being a disaster. And then he went to New England, and I kind of feel he was set up to fail. Just because my thought process is if quarterbacks don't make the jump from year 1 to year 2, they aren't going to make the jump. They're always going to keep on making the same mistakes. And we see that he keeps on making that same mistakes. I think Bill retires at the end of the year. I don't think that his legacy will let him kind of walk away. But I also kind of feel like if Judon and Gonzalez weren't hurt, this team would be a little bit better than they were. You know what I mean? I feel like they're too good of a team that's going to end up with a top 5 draft pick.
If that makes sense. I feel that too. But then I've been championing this for the last 2 years. I said it to start the year last year. I was like, you heard it here first. I said on my podcast, you heard it here first. I think Bill Belichick might retire or get fired after this year because it was another down year in the draft, in my opinion. And then, of course, that showcased itself throughout the year. Didn't make the playoffs. And, I was still confused and puzzled by the decision to make a defensive coordinator your offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
that was step 1 in, kind of ruining Mac Jones' early career because he was coming off a great rookie season. And then you do that derailed him. Then this year, you don't pay a guy like Reynolds and then you give Juju the same contract. And I know he's had some knee problems, so that's kind of why he's not playing. But they're literally both getting $33 million a year. One guy is producing, I think Juju has 14 catches for 86 yards so far in the year. So that was a failure there.
He's been so bad with him.
So bad. And you didn't get him any other receivers at that. You sign a shell of himself, Zeke Elliott, who can't really do that much. So I get it. Bill, on the defense side of the ball, he's got it. He can draw mismatches. He can give quarterbacks coverages they've never seen, confuse them. But you got to score points in today's NFL. Like I've been saying it the past couple weeks on my podcast. I really feel like the era of having a defensive minded head coach is getting phased out of the game unless you have a superstar offensive coordinator. If you don't, it just doesn't work out in today's NFL. It's no more you can just, hey, we're going to stop you on defense and then we're going to ground and pound on offense. We're just going to win like we're the 85 Bears. It doesn't work that way anymore. Quarterbacks are way more athletic, can move around the pocket. Receivers, I mean, this might be the best era ever for receivers. It seems like there's about 2 to 3 studs that are coming out every year now in college. And New England has refused to get any of them. So
None.
it just
Absolutely none.
they
It's
have
like
done nothing to
so
support
covered.
Mac Jones whatsoever.
I hate the Lakers. Bryce, when does your podcast come out?
So right now we are recording on Wednesday nights, and then we'll drop them Thursday morning for the upcoming NFL week. So tomorrow we'll be recording. I don't know the schedule yet for our NBA podcast because right now it's me and my partner Kim who do the football, and then we have another friend Chris who comes on for basketball season. So we're working out the details on that, but I will definitely share them with you when I find that out. But as of right now, episodes every morning at Thursday at 9 or 10 o'clock.
Matt chimes in. Should the Bears go after Caleb Williams if they have the opportunity?
No.
You don't think so?
I mean, they should, but if I'm Caleb Williams and he's serious about his whole, I guess, not going into the draft if he doesn't like who has number 1, the Chicago Bears have literally never had a quarterback that's thrown for over 4,000 yards. Like, their franchise ruins quarterbacks, and it doesn't matter who they draft. Unless they make significant changes to their coaching staff, it's gonna, as talented as Caleb Williams is, we're gonna see the same results we're seeing right now with Justin Fields. Is how I feel about it, because they just don't have any structure on that offense. That was one of my bets I lost this week. I thought I have Justin Fields on my fantasy team, and he had been on the bench the past 2 weeks as he was going off. So I put him back into my fantasy team. I bet him over 1.5 passing touchdowns versus the Vikings. And then I watched them on multiple occasions where it'd be like a 3rd and 5, a 3rd and 7 this weekend, and they're running the football. And you have DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Justin Fields, and you're handing the ball up the middle to a third string because both their starting running backs or their starter and backup were hurt. I don't know what's going on in Chicago, but it's a dumpster fire.
So I will. Reed, my boy Reed came on. Reed played quarterback, Division III school. Huge Bears guy. And I laid out the scenario. I go, dude, what happens if they're at this point of the season with 1 win? Do you look to trade Justin Fields, get some draft picks for him, and then go after Caleb Williams? But then I was told by someone who goes to USC, who works at USC, Caleb Williams makes $12 million a year. Why would you want to go to Chicago and everyone say you suck when you make $12 million a year and you're the toast of LA? It's going to be really interesting to see what he elects to do. If I was Caleb Williams, I'd stay in college. I mean, stay in college 1 year, run college before I go if I don't like where I'm going to go to at the top of the draft. You mentioned the coaching staff. This is how archaic the Bears franchise is. They require their head coach, are you ready for this, man? This is going to blow you away, to go to Saturday night mass with them. The McCaskies require their coach to go to Saturday night mass. Are you flipping kidding me? That's why they get all these like random coordinators, because no one with any substance will go there. Caldwell showed up. Caldwell's dying to get back into the coaching. He was a great coach for the Lions. He got the Lions over the hump. I really feel if they would have beat Dallas in that playoff game, they could have made a run possibly to the Super Bowl. He showed up with a multi-year game plan to develop Justin Fields. They passed him up. They didn't want to go with him. They wanted to go with Matt Eberflus. There is a story going around, though, that a certain Chicago Bear does like those late night poker games, though. I'm going to just bring this comment up, and I'm going to say that, and then we're going to move on, my friend. How does that sound?
That sounds good to me.
That's the story going around. Bobby chimes in, tell the fat Matt story. So this is a Matt Patricia story. After the Patriots won the Super Bowl, they were celebrating at some bar or some restaurant. Matt Patricia tried to come in. The security would not let him in because they thought he was a homeless man. And that's who the Lions hired as their coach. One more question before I get to my takeaway. Speaking of going for it, thoughts on the Ducks going for it at the end of the game? Thoughts on Oregon going for it?
I was rooting for Washington on that one. I got hooked. I had Washington -3. Something told me buy it down to 2.5 because I could see this being a field goal game. I'm not mad at it for Oregon. I think after watching that game, as long as, and this is a big if, but as long as those college football playoff voters can keep their SEC bias out of stuff this year, because it's clear that the SEC isn't at the caliber they've been at in previous years, I fully think if Oregon is able to win out the rest of the year and then Washington does their thing, both of those teams will be very deserving of a playoff spot, depending on how other things shake out around the other conferences.
Oh.
But that's Landing's MO. I can't be mad at them for it. They've been doing it all year. They've been successful with it all year. They had an opportunity to win the game. It just didn't go their way that time. But hey, like I said, they were right there. I think if you play that game again in Oregon, it's a 3-point game their way, and you played on neutral field, it's a coin flip. So I'm not mad at it.
I had a bigger issue with the play call. And them not kicking the 3 at the end of the half than them going for
that one. I did have a problem with. The other ones,
I thought they should have kicked the 3 at the end. I didn't like the play call. Joy, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. My first takeaway is this. Gonna give the Jets credit. I did not think they would be 3-3. And that's when I did the whole season preview when they had Aaron Rodgers. I didn't think they'd be 3-3. Got to give credit where credit is due. But you're telling me if they are battling for a playoff spot come week 15 and old man Aaron Rodgers says he's ready to go, you're going to bench Zach Wilson, who's got you to this point. You can say what you want about Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson in the AFC has gotten you to the point where you're battling for a playoff and you're going to say, hey, you know what? No, we're going to take this 40-year-old coming back from an injury that takes most people a year or over a year to recover from to try to get us to the playoffs. But thanks a lot, kid. No chance in hell. There is no chance in hell that if they're battling for a playoff spot that they're going to bench Zach Wilson for Aaron Jones. There's just no way. And if they do, and you can get plus money on the Jets not to make the playoffs, hammer the living crap out of that bet because there is no way that is going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. But can we talk about for a second, how crazy is it that Aaron Rodgers is even making the progress he's making with this Achilles injury at 39? All the superstar athletes in the world have had this same injury, and we've never seen them recover this fast. What? I know he's champion of different medicines. What is he doing over there?
That's because no one likes him. Like everyone else, when they come back, they have family, friends they hang out with. This dude, no one likes. So he's like doing all this exploratory medicine, traveling all over. Nobody likes this dude. And you can tell he's so thirsty for attention.
Oh, yeah.
Why the hell is he in a box by himself during the Jets-Chiefs game?
Oh, I didn't even I was at that game.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, so I got there early so I could see the pregame warm-ups. Out comes Aaron Rodgers, crutching, half walking. Like, you could tell he was trying to get some attention. He put him to the side, kind of waddled over, and then he's like, hey, throw me the ball. And then he starts throwing. And then, sure enough, I hop on Twitter while I'm sitting there, and it's all the live tweets from Bleacher Report, like Aaron Rodgers out throwing the football. He's walking in a month after the surgery, never been done before. And it's like, okay. He hops back out on that field, and you have someone like a Myles Garrett, Bosa. If you have someone breathing down his neck, and you're 39 coming off an Achilles injury in like 2.5, 3 months, I don't even want to know what's going to happen to his ankle when he tries to escape that pocket. He's going to be toast. So I can't see it happening.
Their O-line is depleted.
That's
Their O-line
the
is
thing too.
depleted as hell. And
Like,
he's not going to be able to scamper around.
that's why I don't get why they're like, well, like you said, Zach Wilson can get us to the point of possibly making the playoffs, and then we just turn around and say, oh, Aaron Rodgers, get in here. Y'all haven't even fixed the problem that put y'all in the situation in the first place. So why would you put him back in there? And he's going to be rusty. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you return from that just hitting on all cylinders.
So week 15, I'm looking at right now, at Miami. Fangio is going to have that defense stifling at that point. The week after that, the Commanders with Chase Young and crew. And then the week after that, they're playing the Cleveland Browns and Miles Garrett.
Miles, if they don't get to him in week 15, 16, Miles Garrett will.
He's going to be dead. Let's go, Finns. Matt, you know this is a anti-Tua podcast. I'm not the biggest Tua guy in the world. Bryce, let's shift our attention over to your second takeaway. What are we working with, my man?
Second takeaway, this is a little biased because, as I mentioned to you before the show started, I've been betting on a few dogs. I've made probably, I think I'm like 1-6 on the season betting on this division. The NFC South, it is absolute garbage. After last year, me and my friends, we had a running joke like, man, this is Tom Brady's worst year ever, and he's still gonna make the playoffs at 8-9 just because that division is god awful. And this year, it looks like whoever wins the NFC South is headed for another 8-9 season, if not worse than that. The Saints, I don't know why on our first episode to start the season, I had some blind faith that Derek Carr would be decent because he had a good defense for once. He's still the same Derek Carr I watched for the last 9 years in Las Vegas and Oakland. Atlanta, I was never a believer in Desmond Ridder. I thought it was a major problem that they weren't showing preseason footage of him throwing the ball in practice. So that I knew there was a red flag there. Carolina, God bless Bryce Young's soul. He doesn't have a line. He's like 5'8", 160 pounds, soaking wet. He can't do anything. I don't think they're gonna go 0-17, but my God, they have a great chance of doing it. They were up 14-0 this weekend, and somehow you lose that game 42-21, which is that blows my mind. And I'm just like, eventually, I feel like the NFL will have to step in and add a caveat rule for if the division winner goes 8-9, they don't deserve to host a playoff game. I just think that's kind of stupid. Like, if you go 8-9 and win your division, sure, you can get into the playoffs. But at that point, you have to fall into that 5-7 range wherever the tiebreakers may lie. But if you're 8-9, there's no way you should be hosting a playoff game as a 4 seed to a team that's probably going to be 10-7, 11-5, and had a pretty good year. But because your division is complete trash, here you are hosting a playoff game. Like I was messing with a friend who's an Atlanta fan. I was like, if I have to watch Desmond Ridder host a playoff game in January, I'm going to gouge my eyes out because nobody wants to watch that. And they don't even know how to use their 2 first-round picks and Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Like, and this is the team that in the offseason had a chance to sign Lamar Jackson if they wanted, and we're like, no, we're good. We think we have something in Desmond Ridder, and lo and behold, you don't. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback, but imagine him in an RPO scheme with Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts off the RPO. Be kind of deadly. But here they are stuck with Desmond Ridder because that's where they made their bed, and now they have to lie in it. And the Saints, I was looking at their cap structure today. They're first place for worst cap headed into 24. I think they're negative 88 million right now. They've just been pushing the cap into the future for years now, and they should have started a rebuild probably like 3 years ago, but they kept hoping that they'd somehow find a way, and they're not finding a way. That defense is pretty good. I got to give it to them. But the offense, it makes no sense to me. And at this point, I feel stupid because for the second year in a row, I bet them to win the NFC South. And Dennis Allen is now 18-41 as a head coach for his tenure. And he still has a job.
That's
So
consistent.
it's consistently terrible. So
Cool, Kev. What is up, my friend? Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Sports facts. Falcons need to trade for Fields, and why doesn't Robinson get more carries? I think they are waiting because they realize they're going to need to ride the kid at the end of the year, and they don't want to have what happened with CMC happen to him. They want to kind of use him and Algier, and then once week 12 comes in, then we're just going to see boom. It's just going to be all Bijan Robinson. I was high on this Falcons team. I bet the Falcons to make the playoffs, to win the South, and I actually put a little bit on them to win the Super Bowl, just because I like their offensive line, I like the back four and the defense, I like their front four. But Ritter, it's just one read. His stuff's not there. He just doesn't even look. And I was rewatching that game when I was on the treadmill the other day. One read, that's it. There's guys open. He's just not seeing them. So definitely a little bit of the concern. My next takeaway. Now look, if I come off salty, I come off salty, and I apologize now. Been a rough start for old Uncle Rico to the NFL season. And the funny thing with me, and I don't know how it is with you, I never get messages saying, hey, nice hit. Hey, good stuff.
You never get those. You never get those.
You know, I had Wyoming as a dog. Hey, nice call in Wyoming. But anytime I lose a bet, boom, dude, what the hell were you thinking? And I have all these people message me, and it's like 15 to 17. So saying, hey, I can do what you do. Hey, you should listen to what I have to bet. And I did a look, and there's a certain way I bet for people that have been watching me do this for a while. Dogs, home dogs, divisional dogs, double-digit dogs. Starting this year, also fading the public. Starting this year, favorites. This is just this year. 53% ATS. Road favorites, 57% ATS. Road favorites laying 3 or more, 62% ATS. Double digits favorites, 75% ATS. Public bets. Public bets are this. When there's more bets on a side, but the money doesn't equal it. So that means there's more people coming in, but the bigger bets are on the other team. Public bets are an insane 60% ATS. This is the best it's been in 20 years. 20 years playing the public. Square bettors are having it in. And look, I'm not mad at you. I'm just letting you know that stuff's going to turn around. I had an absolute brutal start to college basketball, and I was getting lit up in my DMs. And keep in mind, I don't charge for bets. Everything I post is for free. I don't charge, and people are.
That's what gets me is when you get the trolls messing with you about your picks. It's like, this is free.
Yeah, I don't charge.
You want.
I just don't charge. I just give everything for free. I'm just trying to help you. And people are blowing me up. I finished college basketball for the whole year, 62% against the number. Over, what was it? It's like over 100 units ROI. I'm going to be fine. But I'm just saying, all you people, come message me in December. Come message me in January. Talk to me then at the end of the year. We're 7 weeks in. I got my sleeves rolled up. I'm ready to go. I'm looking to bounce back, and it's going to start this week. So that's my takeaway. More of a vent, but that was my takeaway.
I like it. I need that energy as well because I didn't have a good week, but got to bounce back.
Life is all about confidence, my friend. And you know what? Confidence has never been an issue with me. Now we got to get our attention to the bets. We're going to shift and look back at week 6 when Brandon was on. This is how Brandon and I did. Brandon hit the Dolphins minus 13.5, lost the Eagles minus 6, and lost the Cowboys Chargers over. I hit the Browns plus 6 just because my friend who's a scout said that Watson was going to play. Got a little wrong intel there, but it worked out. Had the Colts plus 5 and the Titans plus 3.5. So looking to rebound, man. Starts with you, my man. How we're going to get going in the right direction, Bryce. What's your first bet?
We're going to get it going Thursday night, first game. The Jags, it's looking like Trevor Lawrence is not going to be playing. Short week. They probably shouldn't play him. He might try to, but I feel like the coaching staff should step in at that point. It's a long season. He's been playing well. Stay healthy. You don't want to mess around with the knee sprain, especially versus the Saints defense. So I'm thinking that if it is CJ Beathard, who is a backup that's starting, I got to go back to a bread and butter that the Saints are going to hold them to under 17.5. I know they were on like a crazy double-digit game streak of holding teams under 17 until they kind of had that weird game a couple weeks ago versus the Packers where Derek Carr goes out in a 17-3 in the fourth quarter, and then they lose 18-17 because they just can't get anything going with Jameis Winston. But I think their back is against the wall. Like I said, the NFC South is so bad, they're still right in contention for first place, 3-3. If they get a backup quarterback, I expect Cam Jordan and those boys to tee off and Lattimore and Matthew on the back end to maybe get an interception or two. And I think they should be able to hold them. I feel like if Beathard plays, I think the Jags score 10 to 13 points. So I like that. It gives me a little cushion, especially at the 17.5. Because I feel like if they do, get 2 touchdowns and kick a field goal, maybe a garbage time touchdown, we're still saved with the half point. So that's my first bet for the week, and that's how we're going to get back started on this positive streak.
Iowa great, CJ Beathard. That's what Bobby Check said. Iowa great. I like that too. And my first bet's kind of along that thought process. I took the Saints when it was minus 107. Obviously, they're a favorite right now. I still like them at anything under 3. This is just a good spot. Jaguars played 2 games in London. They traveled back to Jacksonville, and now they have to travel on a short week to New Orleans. That's a lot of travel, which is tough because when you're an athlete and you're at this level, your body's just used to a certain clock, and now you're overseas. Now you came back. Now you're on a short week. It's just a lot. You mentioned it. Lawrence is 100%. Doesn't look like he's going to be going. When you look at the Saints box score, honestly, how did they not win this game? 20 more offensive plays. They outgained the Texans by 130 yards, more first downs. They pretty much, looking at the box score, dominated the game. Now they're just coming home in the right spot. Teams coming off 2 road games and our home favorites on Thursday night are 63% against the number. Home favorites on Thursday night in general are 55% against the number. And I mentioned all the travel and everything the Jags had on. One of the key things I look for is teams on a short week that played over 70, defense played over 70 plays. They played 75. They were on the field for 75 plays against the Colts. Colts had more yards. Colts had more yards per play. Colts had more yards per pass attempt. They lost because Gardner Minshew isn't an NFL quarterback. I'll say it. They lost because Gardner Minshew isn't an NFL quarterback. I think this is just a great spot to take the Saints. Jags defense is going to be tired. A lot of travel. I got the Saints minus 107. Anything under 3, I absolutely love. Sports Facts co-signs that bad boy. Bryce, bet number 2. What do you think, my man?
Bet number 2. This is a kind of trend I've been taking personally. Haven't made it an official pick on the page, and I'm kind of mad at myself because, like I said, all these other picks I've been putting publicly out haven't been hidden. But I'm on the bandwagon of fading any game that Matt Canada is coaching in. So I got the Steelers and Rams under 43. Kyron Williams is probably going to be out. He sprained his ankle this week, so Rams are losing a key part of their offense. I think TJ Watt is going to be able to get to Stafford a lot. He's not very mobile at this stage in his career. I know he's going to be trying to force feed Cooper Kupp, obviously, and Cooper Kupp will get his, but that hasn't produced over 27 points since he's been back yet. Then on the flip side, like I said, Matt Canada coaching that Pittsburgh offense still looks really, really bad. I think Aaron Donald on the other side is going to be able to get to Kenny Pickett a lot. Think Najee Harris. He might be on his way out of Pittsburgh, maybe trade deadline. If not, I know he's for sure gone because he hasn't got off to the best career start over there. So I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I see the Rams winning this one, but I just chose to go with the under. I think this is probably like a a 20-17 game, 17-14 game, something like that. Think Matt Stafford will probably be able to get 1 or 2 touchdowns to like a Cooper Kupp or Puka Nakua. And then I really don't see the Steelers offense being able to go off as of right now with their current problems. But according to Mike Tomlin and company, they're going to stick with Matt Canada. They're not making any changes, but it's not good right now. I know they're coming off a bye, but I don't expect any changes from them really.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you're saying. In terms of the Canada thing, Tomlin's a loyal dude.
He is.
Canada gave his kid a Scully to Maryland when he was at Maryland. So I kind of feel like he's just kind of seeing this through. And at the end of the year, he's going to let him go. Let's make some money. Let me guess. Tomlin is a dog at Etoft21sports is one of your bets. And guess what, my friend? I'm going back to my roots, dude. Give me the Steelers +3. Tomlin as a dog, 65.9% against the spread. Tomlin as a road dog, 61.7% ATS. Also, the big news for me is last week at practice, Cam Hayward, and this will help your under, was running at practice. He was running around. With that being said, Steelers defense struggles without him against the run. When he comes back, they're one of the better teams against the run because he's just such an elite run stuffer. Rams are banged up in the backfield. You mentioned it. They're down to Zach Evans. He's going to be their number 1. They signed Royce Freeman from the practice squad. They called Darrell Henderson, who was with the team last year, was released, signed him to the practice squad. So obviously you can tell they're a little bit worried about their running back situation with the stuff going on. I think that their offense will be a little bit sluggish because of the new stuff coming in. The new running back, Zach Evans, who they drafted from Ole Miss, who hasn't played, plus going against the Steelers coming off a bye. They were on the field for 73 plays versus the Cardinals. Cardinals were in the red zone 3 times, only were able to generate 6 points. I think the Steelers coming off the bye, I think they're going to be able to move the ball. You mentioned Stafford. He doesn't look as nimble in the pocket. I think the Steelers, getting Hayward back, defense is going to limit this Rams offense. I'll take Tomlin in the dog spot. Give me Mike Tomlin plus the 3. I love the Steelers here plus the 3.
I like that. I'm a big Tomlin fan. I bet them, was it week 1 versus Cleveland, even though it had nothing to do with the offense necessarily. The defense literally won them that game. And then I bet them versus the Texans. So I'm 1-1 with the Steelers, but I like that pick. I think they can win this game. And like you said,
is kind of like the Tomlin spot.
It is.
I am 2-1 betting the Steelers. I had them week 1 against the 49ers. They got boat raced. I had them week 2 against the Browns. They ended up winning for the defense. And then I had them a couple weeks ago against the Ravens. There was no way in hell they should have covered, let alone won the game. And it's just what he does. Bryce, third bet. Lay it on me, my friend.
Third bet, like you just said, I agree with you. Gardner Minshew, he was a, great college quarterback. He had the whole mantra with the stash and everything. Earlier in his career in Jacksonville, he was able to put together a few good games here and there. But he's a backup at most. And it sucks that Anthony Richardson went out for the year. But now Gardner Minshew's the guy, and there's not a lot of talent in that Colts wide receiver group for him to throw to. Taylor still looks like he's kind of iffy. I know Moss has been playing pretty good, but that Cleveland defense, man, they are crazy good. Getting under 18.5, coming off a great win versus Brock Purdy and the 49ers. I think Myles Garrett is going to make Sunday a living hell for Gardner Minshew. And I don't even think the Colts score a touchdown necessarily unless it's just a garbage time touchdown. And I'm hoping that possibly Deshaun Watson is back, so that'll make it easier because they'll be able to possess the ball, I think, a little bit better with him back. I know it's kind of a weird deep tissue rotator cuff bruise, I think is what they're calling it. So it's just kind of like day by day, week by week thing. But think he'll be able to be back this week. But even if he isn't, I have faith in that Browns defense. They They are the number one defense in this year for a reason, and they look really good. So got to keep rolling with them.
It's kind of weird with Watson, and I love this bet too. I don't know how they're going to be able to move the ball. I really have no idea how the hell they're going to be able to move the ball against the Browns. Browns defense is looking legit. Schwartz is doing stuff we haven't seen for a while on that defensive front. He's going to be a head coach for sure next year. I'm still pissed off. Like, granted, I won my bet, but I pride myself in having good knowledge. And what the guy in my Brown source told me was Watson was good to play. He passed all the tests. And then it was announced he didn't want to play. And I texted the guy. I was like, dude, what's going on, man? You're giving me wrong intel? He's like, no, he passed every test. He doesn't feel like playing.
Yeah, I heard that's kind of a way to lose the locker room. I feel like I don't know what's going on in that locker room, but I just feel like that if you pass every test medically, because usually it's the other way around where you got to kind of hold players off the field, like, hey, we're gonna rest you, like this is for your health. But for them to give him the say so, like, hey, you're good to go, and he fired back, no, I don't think I can.
No, I'm too hurt. And
Yeah.
100% here. Watson is such a disappointment. And the thing is this is their year. His big contract kicks in next year. And this is their window. If they don't win it here, they're done. And you're already without Nick Chubb. You're already out without Conklin. You're already starting to drop like flies, so to speak. You need your quarterback there. And Sam Howell, 100% here. Sam Howell is having a better year than Deshaun Watson is. He's
100%
distributing the ball. Just telling everyone, if you can pick up Curtis Samuel, top 4 wide receiver last 3 weeks, because he's being looked down by Sam Howell. But yeah, 100%. Sam Howell is having a better year. Now, my third and final bet, we're going to the dirty. We're taking the Falcons plus 1.5, but we're taking it for the first half. Todd Bowles is 13-25. That is 34.2% ATS at home against the first half number in his career. As the head coach of the Bucks, 40.9%. So he's not covering. And also, look, I'm a trend guy. I'll look at the trends and everything, but there comes a point where we have to look at the trends and realize the percentage is too low. Something is going to change. And with that being said, you care to guess what Desmond Ridder is against the number in the first half?
You're saying percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise.
I'm willing to bet it's probably around like something crazy like 65% or something, like something really good, huh?
He's 0-10.
Oh, he's 0-10?
He is yet
yeah.
to cover a first half. And I think
okay, I thought you were saying the opposite, like it was going to be something unbelievable.
I think he just has to come back to I think he's due for one of these first half covers. And who better against the Bucks? I think the Bucks are the Bucks. I think
I like this because
Baker Mayfield
the Bucks
got
sold me.
Mike Evans having a lot of drops. They're a little banged up on the offensive line. I think they're going to lean on the run game, get Bijan going a little bit more. You look at the Falcons against the Commanders. This is the stuff that blows my mind. They averaged 5.1 yards per play. They outgained the Commanders by 300 yards, and they still lost that game. Like I mentioned, Bucks are banged up on the offensive line and on the secondary. I'm just going to take the bounce back spot here for the Falcons to start off hot. Last 2 years, divisional road dogs are 56% against the number. There you have it, man.
I like
Bryce,
that one.
Bryce has the Colts under 18.5 points. Steelers and Rams under 43.5, and the Jags under 17.5 points. I have the Saints minus 107 will play up to 3. Steelers plus the 3, and the Falcons plus 1.5 for the first half. Bryce, boom, dude. It seems like we've been talking for 15 minutes. I'm looking at the clock. We're
It's
almost an
50.
hour, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to thank you. I appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your schedule to talk a little football, talk a little NBA. Hell, we even talked a little MLB for a little bit. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, whatnot, and where they can find you on social media and everything?
So you can find us on social media on X. I still call it Twitter, but Twitter, X, whichever you prefer, at INISPOD. I Need a Sports Pod. Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I Needed Sports Podcast with 4 E's. YouTube is the same as the Twitter at. Instagram, I believe we have an underscore before the INISPOD. You can find us all there. Like I said, we drop episodes right now every Thursday morning for the upcoming week of the NFL. We're about to kickstart up on the NBA. So, Erik, love to have you on as we get those started. I'll definitely send you over our schedule as soon as we finalize that. But once again, I just want to say thanks for having me on. This is my second episode. Hopefully many more. I really enjoy my time. Love chopping it up about, week 7 and feel confident about our picks. We're going to get this thing turned around,
Well, hopefully
shut up all those trolls and how about them Cowboys? That's actually one of my partners right there, Chris. He's a Cowboys fan. Man, I don't know if you saw my last episode last week, but I had a rant on the Cowboys. I had to go off on them after that abysmal performance versus 49ers. And of course they bounced back this week, the week I don't bet them versus the Chargers. But yeah.
I think that spoke more of the Chargers than it did the Cowboys. You know what? I'm just going to leave it at that, Chris. I appreciate you tuning in. But I'm just going to leave it at that, man. I think that had more to do with the Cowboys. Make sure to give Bryce a follow over at the it's INIS pod on TikTok,
Twitter,
Instagram,
TikTok,
X, what X. I always feel weird, like when I say X, it kind of feels like a site I shouldn't be talking about. But
yeah, I'll never really change from saying Twitter, no matter what Elon does.
Oh God, don't get me started on Elon. But Bryce, thanks for coming on. Make sure to check him out and his podcast out. I will tweet it out when we're able to work it out when I can come on, and I look forward to having you on again. Make sure to tune in next week when Drew Garrison of the Cincinnati Jungle is the special guest. Until next week, best of luck in your bets, and let's make some money.